So what should your budget be when you're launching a PPC campaign if you're doing wholesaling or flipping? So this is roughly what we use when we're talking with leads and to try to figure out if PPC works for them, if the plan that they're putting in place and the expectations they have are correct. So let's go through it. So we'll just say we have Bob here and he's in, let's just say Philadelphia. The first thing we'll do is we go to Google and we'll type in Philadelphia metro market population, right? So a little over 6 million people in Philadelphia. Now, realistically, he's probably not going to do all of Philadelphia. He'll exclude maybe the downtown areas and pick certain counties within Philly. But for the sake of example, we're going to go with the entire metro of Philadelphia. So let's just say he's in Philly and we got 6 million people or so. Rule of thumb that we have is for every million people, you could max out at about $8,000 a month budget. Now, this is max, which means if you go more than that, you're likely starting to get diminishing returns. There's just not enough people in your market to warrant the ad spend with the current kind of very targeted approach that we typically have. So in this case, you could spend $48,000 a month. You're not going to be spending $48,000 a month. We've actually had a client spending $50,000 a month before. It does happen, but this is like max. Like this is, if you went all in and we scaled it up over multiple years, like you could hit this, right? And then you're netting a lot of money. We like to put on home value here as well. Not that it really affects the formula, but it gives us a good idea of what the price point is in your market. Because with super expensive markets like all of California, basically, or Boston, maybe Denver, things like Seattle, markets are a bit more expensive. The cost per deal is going to be higher, so your budget is going to want to be higher. So let's just say let's see what the average home value in Philadelphia is. Medium home value is 230. That seems pretty low. So this is like maybe an average price point market. Now, probably the lower income housing is bringing it down, I'm guessing. Or maybe that's just wrong. We're just going to say, yeah, 250,000 for the sake of example, but it's not going to affect anything. Basically, if it was like San Diego, that's where I'm from, medium home price, right? So it's going to be $1 million, which is absolutely ridiculous. But regardless, like that's an expensive market, right? So let's see what Denver is. I'm curious. 600. So to me, like Denver's the bottom end of like a higher end market. So going from like 600 and up, you start to be in a higher. Let's just see what Seattle is. I know different neighborhoods are going to be different too, right? So yeah, expensive market. And then let's do Boston. Yeah, 800, right? And let's just do my state in Delaware, 400. So Delaware it's pretty high, surprisingly. So I think Philadelphia is more expensive than Delaware. So I think probably the lower income housing is bringing it down. The average cost per deal we see with an average market is about $4,000 to $6,000. So for this example, we're going to be conservative and we're going to go with $6,000. And we see an average profit per deal of about $30,000. Now, this is blended. If you're strictly wholesaling, average is about 25. If you're strictly flipping, it's about 56. A lot of our clients do like majority wholesale with some flips. So this is like a blended average we found to be pretty accurate. It's 30 because most of them are wholesales, right? Leads per deal, we see about 15 to 20 on average. So we're just going to put 20 to be super conservative. And ROI here will just be this divided by that. So equals 30,000. So 5. Let's figure out what your budget should be now that we understand the market. It really goes back to what your goals are, right? Within the constraints of the market. So a monthly budget here, if your budget is $4,000 a month, at this point, you'll be doing a little less than a deal a month if your average cost per deal is 6, about 8 deals a year. With this average profit, you'll be making about 240. You'll spend about 50 and you'll net a little under $200,000, which is honestly pretty common that we see for campaigns, and your ROI is 5x. Regardless of what your budget is, your ROI is going to be 5x based on these numbers here. So when we're running a campaign, obviously what we're trying to do is make sure we can get these targets, right? It's important to work with somebody who's mainly focused on real estate investors, right? Because we can look at your campaign after a few months and see, well, what is your cost per deal? What is your profit? And we can start to see where the best opportunities for improvement are. Maybe there's improvement on the dispo side. Maybe it's mainly certain things with the targeting and locations. And that's a whole nother video to go into. But we want to make sure that you understand. And we basically are partnering up with clients, right? So that when we launch a campaign, before a single dollar is spent, you have a good idea of what to expect with your campaign. So if you want your budget at $8,000 a month, you'll be doing a little over deal a month, about $500,000 a year, and you're netting about 400, right? So as long as your expectations are set that like you're good to go. I think this is what you need to do. A lot of investors will only want to spend $3,000 a month and expect a deal a month. And it's probably not going to work like that, right? So I think good rule of thumb is 4 to 6K per deal, and then work your way back from there. Obviously, if you're in like San Diego, your cost per deal will be higher, probably closer to 10K, but your profit's also going to be higher, probably 40 or 50 on average versus 30. So the ROI, still regardless of what market you're in, usually we target a 4 to 6X ROI because some markets will be more expensive, some will be less, but the profits per deal and the price points end up balancing out the ROI that way. So it's important that you have a budget, whatever your budget is, that you have about 4 to 6 months set aside. So if you have only $20,000 that you can put to PPC before you want to scale it up or not, you should probably set your budget closer to $4,000, right? So that's what I would say. If you have 20 grand, set it over five months. So $4,000 a month, and then here's the results you're going to expect. And once after a few months, you start closing these deals, then you can start to scale your budget up further. You don't want to start your budget at, $7,000 or $8,000 if you only have $20,000 to invest, because you're going to run out of money probably before you start to see a really good return. That's how we do it. Thank you. Peace.